Hello everyone, it's been a while since I've made a guide. I figured I'll start the year 2025 with the revised bonus recruit along with the wishlist system. So let's take a look at the bonus recruit first. The bonus recruit system is eventually a hard pity system. Out of 100, you are able to select the 3 characters that is currently available on screen: Leader, Naga, and Alice. All these 3 are actually very top tier support at the current state of the game. Alice herself is a very good DPS, but she requires high investments that a lot of new players would not be able to get at the beginning. Naga is a very good support, both with her original teammate Tia, and lately she's being used very often with the best burst 2 support Crown in the game at the moment. And at last, Leader. Leader she has been the #1 burst support ever since the game's creation. And she is still the #1 burst support in general. There are some teams that have benefits by not using her, by using some other very specific team combination. But overall, the advantage of those characters has not exceeded the general purpose and the general buff that Leader can provide the entire team. In fact, most of the time they are like within a few percentage difference in terms of total output, but just one Leader is enough for you to use through the entire game, at least for a long time. Alright, so with that being said, if you are a brand new player, of course, if you hear that, I will recommend you to get Leader first. Out of the 100 polls, Leader definitely first, and after that I will get Naga. The reason why I didn't recommend Alice is the fact that you don't have to pull Alice right now. You don't have to choose Alice right now because there is a series of events. Let me see where it is. You can do to get Alice. There you go. Bottom left corner, the Alice Diary is a current event. It still has 168 days left, so we still have at least half a year left on this event. And if you complete all 14 days challenge, if you're able to complete all these challenges, you will be able to receive your own copy of Alice. Okay, so they are giving you Alice for free without requiring polls, which means that if you are a brand new player for bonus recruit, your best choice is Leader or Naga, where Leader definitely takes priority. Alice is good for the later games. Once you can start doing overload gears, which is another can of worms, to be honest with you. Basically tier 10 gears that you need to get once I would say roughly when you're about level 120 or 160-ish, that's when you need to start worrying about those gears. Alice is a good choice to start having duplicate copies of, because mostly Leader's buff definitely does not require her to have a duplicate copy. One copy of Leader will carry you all the way to end games, to be completely honest with you here. Naga is there is improvement from her duplicates, but not by much. Alice as a DPS character definitely benefits from having duplicate of herself. So once you get both at least one copy of Leader and one copy of Naga, and then you can perhaps try to get more copies of Alice. Alright, that's it with the bonus recruit. Let's move on to the wishlist. Alright, just to show you guys, this is my current wishlist, okay? Something about wishlist that new player needs to know is the fact that you have to completely fill up the wishlist for you to get the benefit. You cannot only think that if you only filled out 3 of the 5 or 4 of the 5 characters, you improve your chances. That's not how the wishlist works. You need to fill in 5 out of 5 for the wishlist to be even engaged. If you do not do that, you do not get the benefit of targeted raids of a wishlist. Okay, the biggest thing Shift Up has made during anniversary event is the fact that now, well, not anniversary, the New Year event, is the fact that Pilgrim and Overspec characters are available to be put on wishlist now. It used to be that everything's a crap shot for Pilgrims, but now you can target the chances as well. And this is my current list. let me revise this really quick for you guys for a newbie character recommended wishlist. Alright, this is a tier 2 and tier 3 wave of the Elysion pick, okay? So round 1 was those 5 I just mentioned. Round 2 consists of okay, I guess I need to go from the start. Diesel is actually a very low priority list. She is decently good to have, but not required, okay? When you are doing trains, Ultrason, whatever his name is, the train boss in which a newer player will get stuck on from time to time. She's a very good pick for you to get around or to be the taunt person to get through and get some materials when you are trying to grind for gears. And the next character will be Miranda. Miranda is a pretty weird spot, okay? She used to be a burst 1 character that has been used for a quick burst, for example, Snow White. However, lately there's just too many burst 1 with better skills and better cooldown reduction. She's no longer particularly needed per se. But if you are a new character with very limited roster, I would recommend you to consider Miranda if you already have received or pulled the first 5 character I have recommended. Okay, next one will be Phantom. She is a decent DPS. Okay, that's decent means that I would say above average, not the best DPS out there, but she is alright. But for Elysion, for some reason, for the class, the manufacturer that is for tactical abilities, DPS is very lacking. And Phantom filled that one of holes for Elysion towers, if you want to climb the towers and get more mode for more rewards as well. And lastly, once you get Phantom, I will recommend Guillotine as well. Guillotine she's been used sporadically for solo raids and union raid. Biggest issue with Guillotine is the fact that she drains her own health when she's doing DPS, and that makes her really, really fragile and pretty difficult to use. Her DPS is also decent. She is actually one of the higher DPS units since the beginning of the game. If you are able to get her with overloads and the plus ammo capacity. Like I said, the biggest issue with Guillotine is just her own health drain that is really dragging her down in terms of her durability. Alright, that would be it for my recommendation on the Elysion manufacturers. Let's move on to the next one. And here we have is the Missilis teams. From the beginning, we have leader. As I stated, you really don't need more than 1 copies of leader. So either you put her on the first priority and then you removed her once you reach 100 pulls and you exchange for 1 leader, or you can maybe keep leader in the wanted list and try to pull her first and see what you get. But regardless of all the characters, I would strongly recommend to try to get 1 leader for your burst 1 support first. In terms of this entire tier list, leader is probably my most recommended pull from the very beginning of the game. Okay. Second character will be Jacko. Jacko is a very weird case. She is really only ever useful in PvP content. However, if you plan to play this for long term, PvP is actually the most stable way for a new player to get gems and stuff. What is a little more friendly with this game is the fact that PvP is actually sorted by the time that you join the game, so they won't match you with the other players that has joined the game maybe a year or 2 ago. You'll be matching with other players that has joined the game during your own time. So PvP in general, if you put effort in, you will get reward. And it is, again, the most stable way for you to get gem. And because of that, I will recommend you to build at least a few PvP-centric characters. There's a few here that you have to have, or else you're pretty much severely gimped in PvP. Jacko is one of them. Jacko enables Scarlet's fast charge as a whole, and the Scarlet's fast buff in her due to her HP lost. And she is also incredibly useful to keep the rest of your teammate alive. So I would recommend Jacko. Third character I recommend is Tove. Tove is a weird case. She is an assault rifle user that is a shotgun buffer. Yes, you heard it right. She doesn't use shotgun, but she is the best shotgun buffer in the game. She actually buffs shotgun more than leader as a burst 1. The only issue she has is she does not have cooldown reduction, which is resolved by another character I want to mention in the future. But for the time being, she is one of my more recommended characters. You only need 1 copy of her, okay? 1 copy is enough. You don't need to pull too many copies. I have 3. I don't know why I have 3, but there she is. She just keeps coming up, okay? Next one will be Naga. Oh, oops. There you go. This is Naga. She is in the same team with Tia. She is very useful, as she was actually was one of the very top support combos with her and Tia for Pierce teams, for Pierce damage teams. However, lately Naga has been going solo, and she has been joining Crown lately. Naga actually provides the most amount of boost in attack power when she is paired up with Crown, and so I will recommend every new player to get at least 1 copy of her. More than 1 copy is okay too, because Crown's healing is based off of her own HP and her own attack, so additional copies of her is welcome. But I will not chase additional copies unless you can have your full team set up first. Lastly, I will recommend you to, as a new player, Quincy Escape Queen is definitely one of the more recommended characters. She is not the top of a lot of the tier list or a lot of people's recommendation, because most people will recommend the highest damage characters, right? She doesn't really have, I would say, the top damage compared to crazy insane characters like Cinderella, Scarlet Black Shadow, and Red Hood, and also Rappy Red Hood. But what you'll realize is the fact that none of them are normal units. Quincy Escape Queen is one of the few normal manufactured characters that can somewhat compare damage and DPS compared to Pilgrim characters. And at the same time, one of her biggest benefits is the fact that her skills is relatively independent from her buffer. She doesn't receive too many buffs or additional bonuses from buffers because she buffs her own damage by a lot. What I'm about to say is a little bit higher player level for you to consideration, but as you progresses through the game, the buff that each character reply to himself increase, and the buff that your support apply to the character also increase. And that will result in buff dilution, in which means that when the overall buff is already, say, 200% to the attack, the additional 10% to a 200% is not much. But if your existing buff is only 10%, adding another 10% is a lot, right? Quincy, Escape Queen, on this hand, in this case, she does provide her maybe the 120, I believe, or 100 something percent buff to herself in terms of attack. So any attack buff to her is very, very, very diluted. Alright, the next 4 characters from Missilis are the second tier pick. I would say these picks are actually in the importance of, actually in the order of importance, okay? So I will recommend you to pull Tia first. Tia, while no longer being the best burst support combo, she is still a very good support. Her biggest flaw is the fact that her taunt will actually make her die pretty easily. So if you have Tia, I will recommend you to keep Tia as one of your more consistent character to be on the recruitment roster, because more copies of her gives her more HP, and which in turn increase her survivability, because she dies really easily in the solo raids and union raids, and you will use her a lot in solo raids, especially solo raids. Okay, second pick would be Senti. Senti is no longer really being used for PVE purposes. However, she is still a very good temporary PVE character if you do not have any other alternative for Burst 2. She is, however, still one of the highest burst gauge generator in PvP, which is why I recommend you to pull her. You will need to use her for a speed team. For example, most of the Scarlet team nowadays are all speed burst team, okay, for PvP, and she is one of the key characters. And next will be Ein. The reason why I do recommend Ein is the fact that so far a lot of the electric characters right now lacks precision. The only character you're gonna have that has decent precision also would be Guillotine, but Guillotine requires a ramp up. And at the same time, you will using Escape Queen, but Escape Queen will typically not be used in the same team and the same location as Cinderella. So if you have a Cinderella, if you plan to use Cinderella, Ein is actually a really good pick because she will help Cinderella on harder to hit parts. She will help Cinderella on breaking specific boss parts with specific patterns that requires precision, which is something that a lot of the electric character does not have. And also Ein herself is a pretty good damage output. She is not the best, but she is a pretty decent character as well. Next will be Maxwell. Maxwell so far is a burst support character. You can use her as a direct burst 3 as well in a team with just her and Red Hood. She has a Duracell there, just realized. But anyway, she is very good in terms of her skill because she provides a big chunk of attack boost to her allies. But you need to watch out is the fact that her attack boost affects the 2 highest attacks in your team, right? So if you want to use Maxwell with 2 other burst 3, that means your Maxwell's gear cannot be too good. Well, she's gonna take the buff to herself and your burst 3 no longer have the burst available. Lastly, I will recommend the Plus and Drake. They are not in the high priority list, I would say, but they are good characters to fill in the gap when your list is full. The Plus is good, but only with her favorite item buff. But that is very much a very end game material to use. You only will be using her nowadays for end game PvP. She is good in that in terms of burst generation, but she will not be your top priority pick. Drake is good for a shotgun fire code because we still do not have a fire code shotgun that actually does a decent amount of damage. And Drake fills in void. She has been there since day 1 of game release. She is still one of the best fire type shotgun characters. I do not recommend her too much right now is because for shotgun teams, the boss is very important. For example, and the team composition is very important, right? If you take a look at the newest solo raids, you'll realize a lot of the top players has decided to use shotgun characters. But from my own experience, unless your shotgun character is extremely stacked, you are going to have problems in solo raids, especially trying to break apart the there's some, for example, missiles, smaller parts and such, that is hard to be hit by shotgun teams, and you are going to suffer greatly for that. Alright, now we are on Tetra. Tetra is the entertainment-focused Nikkei manufacturers, but surprisingly, funny enough, they actually have one of the best units available. Alright, without further ado, first of all is, of course, Alice. As I said previously, Alice has a very good DPS character. She also provides the ultimate support for Scarlet Black Shadow. Just having her and Black Shadow on the same team, with her skill maxed out, she can provide additional damage boost of Scarlet by about 33 to 35%, which is a lot when you consider all of the potential benefits. Okay, and the next character I recommend is Nor. Nor is she has been kind of falling out of favors lately a little bit in terms of her teaming with Blanc, depending on your team setup and depending on what you're comfortable with using. However, she is still one of the best characters to use to support, say, character like Modernia or overall machine gun characters, because she does add ammo to your team to your current ammo clip magazines. So she is a very good support character for burst 3 even as of off rotations. Very often you will also see her being used as part of the shotgun team as a wind type shotgun user. And third is Blanc. Blanc is very good for both PvP and PvE. She is incredibly useful because she has a skill that called Indomitable. She basically invincibility for a short period of time. That is her reason to be paired with what's her name, Scarlet most of the time PvP, because she makes sure Scarlet does not die. For PvE, otherwise, she provides very good healing. She provides very good amount of damage support because her skill provides attack damage up instead of attack up. Attack damage up is a different multiplier and it's a very rare type of multiplier. Much more rare than other type. And next would be Soda Twinkly Bunny Edition. She is probably one of the better addition to shotgun teams that has come out in the last 2 to 3 years. She's actually really good for shotgun teams. She actually fixed one of the shotgun team's biggest problem, which is not having a cooldown reduction character. Well, she didn't really fix the problem not having a cooldown reduction. She basically solved the problem by giving her entire team a longer burst duration. So she is also really, really good. I would recommend to have at least her if you want to put together a shotgun team. Before you have her and Tove, shotgun team is really, really wonky, to be completely honest with you here. Lastly is Rouge. Rouge is a critical buffer if you have characters such as Cinderella, because she gives cooldown reduction, she gives HP bonus, and she also gives attack bonus. She also provides a very minuscule, well, I won't say minuscule, she provides a very small amount of healing. So when you combine her with other shielding type characters, you may be able to tank through a solo raid without having a dedicated healer. She is also happen to be one of the, one fatal issue with Blanc is the fact that Blanc is a bunny that gets really lonely from time to time. She requires her to have her own teammate from the 7-7 squad on her team. If she does not have other 7-7 squad on her team, at least one character, her burst rotation, her burst skill is 60 seconds. Okay, so anytime that you want to use her besides in PvP, you need to make sure either Nor or Rouge is included in the team. But Rouge is very good to be used with Crown and Cinderella. What you need to watch out for Rouge is the fact that her skill is applied in a very specific manner. You want to use her on slot 2 and 4, and at the same time, you want the character you want her to buff at the slot next to her. So 1, 3, or 3, 5. You use her on slot 4. Alright, the tier 2 of Tetra is as followed. Biscuit, you want to have her for PvP purposes mostly. She is occasionally useful in PvE content, especially solo raid for her. If you combine her with say a low reload speed, low reload duration characters, she can have a very fast and rapid burst of missiles, and that just knocks down everything in her path. That's her really only use for PvE purposes. PvP, she is incredibly good because she can give invincibility to another support characters or defense characters. So you will be using her quite a bit in PvP contents, especially for the higher PvP levels. Second character I recommend is Dola. Dola has been falling out of favor quite a bit in terms of cooldown reduction characters, but she is still one of the few cooldown reduction characters available in game, so unless you have better options, I would recommend you to pull at least one copy of her before you are trying to put together other teams. And the third choice is also because cooldown reduction. This is Volume. Her really only good points, to be completely honest with you, is her skill 2, which is cooldown reduction. However, in the current days in which every burst character herself has a lot of damage, has a lot of attack buff, And a lot of the burst 2 or burst 1 also has a plenty of attack buffs. Somehow the crit rate and crit damage has gotten better because it's in a completely different multiplier. Okay, so Volume, well, not the best burst 1 character to use or to recommend. I will recommend at least one copy of her, so you can use her and mix up in a lot of different composition for you to use in the future. In fact, I have to use her in the recent solo raid so that I can have a full fight team. And lastly is Leona. Leona is very good for shotgun teams. This is before we have a little bit more shotgun available characters. Leona is one of the main characters you're going to need to put together a shotgun team. She does help your team a lot, but in some of the more extreme cases, you will be replacing Leona with a Blanc and Nor as a full shotgun team. But she is still a good extra character to have to keep your roster healthy and be more viable for different challenges. Alright, third tiered pick for Tetra. Tetra has 3 tiers because Tetra is they're really good manufacturer overall. Very useful. You will probably want one copy of Noise if you are stuck on the Ultrason, the stupid train boss that you're going to face. Her taunt will be very useful for you. If you learn her dance, I think there is a couple of YouTube videos that you can see. You can use her taunt and also to combine that with maybe Diesel's taunt and maybe some other characters' taunt. You can use them to completely avoid the devastating missiles from the boss. Diesel is also pretty decently well to be used for PvP. She is still being used depending on team composition, but she is still being used. So she not the best character nowadays, but very useful in circumstances. Exia is okay. She is actually one of the better burst buffer for electric team. However, the reason why I placed her so low is the fact that she requires favorite item to be buffed. For new characters, that is something that is extremely difficult to achieve and get. So for the time being, for Exia, I recommend you to only get her after you have completed every other criteria. And next would be Alice in Wonderland. Alice Wonderland Bunny. She is a decently healer for shotguns if you do not shotgun team lacks healer. Let's just say that. The typical shotgun team, which consists of Tove, Leona, Bunny, Soda Twinkling Bunny, and also Privity, Unkind Maid, and one additional shotgun characters. They do not have healer, and Alice Wonderland Bunny fulfills that role. So she is somewhat critical for a shotgun team. However, like I said before, a lot of times you use Blanc, so she no longer requires it. But at the same time, she's also a decently well buffer for Crown to trigger her skill and her skills. She does not replace Naga, but if your damage is already high enough, for me personally, I have replaced her with Naga in my Crown Kraken team for the very high end level overload gear, because of the fact that Alice is not weak to Kraken and do not get one shot by it. Alright, that is it with the Missilis team. Let's move on to the last team. Alright, so we are on the Pilgrim Overspec characters, right? And for the longest time, this is actually not available. They finally added this as of a new year 2025, so this is a new list that the new player definitely should take advantage of. So let's go from the very beginning. First of all, I will recommend Red Hood. She is one of the best Pierce character currently in the game. She also provides very, very good burst 1 capability. You will be using her burst 1 because she technically buffs more than leader. It's just that her burst 1 is every 40 seconds. This is actually okay in normal PvE content because you do not need to burst every 20 seconds in the normal PvE stage, due to how the way that the waves in PvE content works, right? and her burst 3 is one of a higher DPS character, DPS burst 3 available, especially when the boss has additional cores or additional parts. She can utilize that and deal additional damage. The next character I will recommend, I will put it all out first, I'll explain that later, is Scarlet Black Shadow. When combined with Alice, which is rarely available from the current event, from completing her quest, you can combine her and Alice, and Scarlet Black Shadow will be an incredibly high DPS character. There are some guides out here, some websites out there that says that she's not good for PVE. She's not the best for PVE. I would somewhat go against it, because to be completely honest with you, Scarlet Black Shadow does a lot of damage. Okay, she does so much damage that her lack of AOE, where her attack, she does AOE, but her damage is evenly distributed between everything she hits, right? So if she only has 100 damage, it is spread to, if there's 10 characters on screen, it is spread to 10 per character, 10 for enemy. If there's 20, and it's spread to 5 per enemy. If there's only 5, then it's of course 20. So because of that, some guides, some online websites says that she is not recommended for PvE. What they forget, or what they have failed to accompany, is the fact that Scarlet Shadows has really, really high DPS. And her DPS is so high that when she enters burst mode, it really doesn't matter that the damage is distributed. Everything on screen just dies. This is actually different than what Modernia. We used Modernia a lot previously for PvE wave clears, because during her burst, she creates a big AoE, like a big circle screen that will shoot anything in that circle. However, her damage potential is no longer that high compared to other characters. And this case is also compared to Scarlet Black Shadow as well. So as time goes on, a lot of times we actually do see people use Scarlet Black Shadow to clear harder contents compared to Modernia. Modernia is a very good flex character to use in PvE right now, in some areas, and you probably had to swap the two around depending on what you're fighting, especially on enemies with a attack counter, with a counter shield that requires a certain number of shots to break, and that's the one that you always see is only 1 damage to them. Then on those enemies, you definitely want to bring a Modernia to the fight. And this is how Modernia looks. Alright, and next would be Crown. Crown is your current best burst 2 character in the entire game right now, I would say. She is the best burst 2 buffer. She also provides a individual, not for everyone. Each individual character gets a shield. So she is incredibly useful to provide additional protection for all your characters. And on top of that, she buffs each character quite a bit. She is also a machine gun, so she helps breaking up the number count enemy. She has decent damage output herself, and on top of that, she reduces the reload time. So she is really a jack of all trades support in terms of burst 2. In terms of usability, I will place her in the same rank as leader. I don't see her being replaced anytime soon as a burst 2 support. And next one, we have Cinderella. Cinderella's current damage is due to, honestly, Cinderella, the initial release does not make her this high on the game list, on the tier list. However, she is, due to bug, the developer has to buff her damage, basically, in order to not piss off everybody. And because of that, she is now one of the highest, actually the highest damage character available in the game. So I do recommend her. However, you need to know one fact is she is not very good on trash mob clearing. She is very good in the boss fight. However, she has delays in all her shots, and that is very critical and very difficult to use in a PVE content, in hard PVE content where the mobs move relatively fast and jumps into screen really fast, and you also need to kill them really fast due to her delays. So she is one of the best PVE characters in terms of solo raids and union raids and boss fight, but she's not very good at clearing trash mobs. Alright, let's take a look at alternative picks that you would definitely want to put in consideration. These four are characters, these five I guess, are characters I did not mention, but they're also very, very good to use. First of all, Scarlet. You want at least one copies of her if you can get her as soon as possible if you're serious about PvP. She has been and still will be one of the best character to use for quick burst PvE team, right? When you combine her, if you have a what's her name, Jacko, I will recommend you to pull for Scarlet immediately. We'll try to get Scarlet immediately. You can wait on Scarlet until I get Jacko, I would say, but then once you have Jacko, I will focus on trying to get a Scarlet. And another one will be Dorothy. Dorothy is very important in terms of her skill down reduction abilities. She has been kind of kicked out of roster a couple times for the solo raid just due to the fact that she doesn't really fit with the team, with that battle specifically, but she's still one of the better burst one character with cooldown reductions. Okay, so she is still pretty good pick to have. And Noelle is one of the biggest, strongest shield you can have in PvP. She provides your invincibility for 5 seconds. She is not very useful in PvE at all. I have not seen her appear in PvE for the I have not seen her in PvE for the longest time. Actually, is invulnerable for 3 seconds, correction. But if you are serious about PvP, and she is definitely recommended. Lastly, Rapunzel. Rapunzel is more or less a flex character. She is good in PvP and she's decent in PvP, but however, she's also decent in PvP. She is not necessarily in a lot of teams, but she is also a very decent flex because she is typically placed as number 5 on your team consideration, and she just there to provide healing and resurrection. Not the most important character to have, but she is one of the universal character that is decent to have to make sure your team survive. Alright, that will be it for all of my wish list recommendations. Again, let's take a look. This is my current wish list. As an endgame player, you can take this as a grain of salt for what you want to do in endgame. It really depends on what you want to have. And what you realize is that after a while, you're probably going to pick for PvP centric character once your PvE roster has already been filled out. For example, Rumani is specifically used for PvP purposes and goes to Moran. And also keep trying to get additional copies of Tove, because Tove is the only assault rifle on the team. For shotgun team, that is a long range, and there's parts that is going to require for a concentrated shot. I previously said that get Tove as 1 copy first. That is true to enable the shotgun team, but once you have enabled a shotgun team and you have gotten everyone else, it is a good idea to get more copies of Tove later on. Alright, I think, also, for a character that heals you, based on their HP or based on their attack, those are characters I typically also want to get additional copies of. Blanc provides additional healing based on her HP. Naga does additional attack and healing based on her own stat. And there's other characters like that you would definitely want additional bonus from their skills. But at the same time though, the biggest bonus you're going to get with additional characters are dupes of your DPS characters. And so unless you already have all their dupes, I will not recommend you trying to get dupes for support. Alright, with that being said, thanks everyone for listening, and I hope this teaches you something, will give you some hints, ideas of what you want to do with your own wish list. Happy gacha pulling and happy 2025. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.